Hello and welcome back to Perspectives. On today's show, as Sikhs for Justice protests outside Canadian Mandirs went ahead over the weekend, we look at the enormous coordinated wave of effort made by India through its Hindu organisations across North America to not just combat the protests but completely rewrite the narrative surrounding them. A masterclass of twisting the truth from, well, the arch truth twisters themselves. And talking of which, after a grenade is thrown in Chandigarh by a so-called Khalistani terrorist, we again pick apart the story to find fact from Hindutva fiction. In Canada, the RCMP must be getting dizzy after doing yet another U-turn on Indian transnational repression. Is it or is it not officially happening in Canada? And in the US, we cover the Sikh Freedom March held over the weekend on Capitol Hill in Washington, bringing the Khalistan message to the heart of US lawmaking. All this and more on today's packed show. And of course, at the end of the show, we'll take a look at loads of your great comments, which are filled up beneath the videos from last week. So thank you, as always, to our wonderful audience for that. Right, as I say, loads to get through today. And I want to start off with, yes, as I said, these protests that took place over the weekend, yesterday specifically, across Canada outside at least a couple of Mandirs, Hindu Mandirs. It was, of course, our friend Gurpreet Singh Panoon who took to the airwaves a couple of weeks ago to demand that everybody should stand outside these Mandirs with their colourful, glorious Khalistan flags and send the people from within a bit of a message. So, it was the Triveni Mandir in Brampton and the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in Surrey. Of course, two very high-profile Mandirs that he'd targeted. Now, the protests are intended as a democratic expression of the Sikh community's aspirations for sovereignty, obviously. But as a response, we are witnessing, and we did witness over the last week at least, a clearly orchestrated, very loud, very high decibel effort by Hindutva organisations to try and hijack the narrative before a single banner was even unfurled. Now, just as a start, let me give you at least a little taste of some of yesterday's protests. Videos are, as we speak, being uploaded from yesterday's protest. Here's one.
Kill Modi! Kill Modi! Kill Modi! Kill Modi! Kill Modi! Kill Modi! Kill Nita! Kill Nita! Kill Nita! Kill Nita! Kill Nita!
Well, look, guys, a decent turnout. It's a shame actually we didn't have more people there, but anyway, it was still nonetheless, it was a good turnout. Loads of Khalistan flags. Note a few things noteworthy there. You see the barricades that have been put there by the local police deliberately, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But as you saw, lots of chanting, lots of smiles, loads of wonderful Khalistan flags. So it was exactly as it was intended to be. A very high-profile protest, democratic protest, with a decent turnout and a sea of Khalistan flags. But of course, leading up to this, the Hindutva mobs, both online and in the real world, were very much trying to, as I say, retake the narrative of what was been happening. And it does appear, in fact, it did appear right across social media, this Hindu tsunami of both propaganda and, again, as I said in the intro, just trying to regain the narrative of what it was all about. So let's take a look at the official narrative that's being established apparently by these Hindutva organisations. One of the well-known suspects, as we often refer to, the Canadian Hindu Foundation, They produced this letter, an open letter that they issued a couple of days before the actual protest. Sorry, it was Saturday, the day before the protest. It was signed along with a coalition of 30 other Hindutva aligned organisations. Released this joint statement. The language is predictable. It's unsurprising. It's a 2-page thing. There's page 2, but I'll just give you. I mean, you can see the list of signatures there. Again, thank you. Very useful list because it actually helps us certainly on our side identify who are the Hindutva aligned organisations. And in fact, I'll be forwarding this if it hasn't been done already to the Caravan and Sciences Po University in France, who have produced that incredible piece of work analysing who are the Hindutva aligned, Hindutva affiliated fronts for the RSS across the world. And of course, thank you very much. You've very kindly given us a complete, comprehensive list of those in Canada who should now be on the Caravan's incredible website, telling everybody who are the Hindutva organisations. So, but anyway, I just want to take a look at just some. I'll just cherry pick 1 or 2 pieces of language again, just to give you a flavour of what the narrative that they're trying to create and spin. It says, for example, over the past several years, more than 30 Hindu temples across Canada have been subjected to vandalism, hate graffiti. Really? We've covered that story on a regular basis. It's very clear that hate graffiti is actually a false flag by Hindutva itself. Because basically Sikhs don't do that, and the Khalistan movement don't do that because they don't need to, frankly. They've been subject to threatening slogans. Well, it depends. One man's threatening slogan is another man's free speech, but there you go. Violent imagery. Yeah, actually, I won't disagree with that. And in fact, in the video I've just shown you, I'll show. Here we go. There. Yeah, this is what they call violent imagery. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That is, of course, the assassination of Indira Gandhi by the 2 Sikhs. That is violent imagery. But what they don't say is what it actually portrays and why Indira Gandhi was assassinated in that way. They sort of rather conveniently brush over the truth of and the whole context of why Indira Gandhi was assassinated after her mass violence. But anyway, I don't need to preach to you guys. You obviously we all know what it's really all about. But of course, they talk about violent imagery, and it again paints this picture. And they say direct intimidation. Well, it's protest. It's called protest, guys. Such acts violate the fundamental rights. Blah blah blah. But they also say. And this is again referring back to, sadly, what I have talked about in the past. They say there have also been instances where such protests have gone beyond peaceful expression and resulted in harassment, disruption and violence, including at the Hindu Sabha Temple in Brampton on November the 3rd, 2024. Oh, God, here we go again. Yes, it is that silly video that when the guys with the Khalistan flags were provoked by the agents, the Hindutva agents, into reacting. They reacted. And, of course, that part of the video has now been used ever since as this sort of evidence of violence. So, again, this is why I always appeal at these things. Please keep them peaceful. Do not get provoked, because they remember that one single slip of discipline, that one single mistake by the guys with the Khalistan flags, where they just couldn't help themselves. They were provoked. They were human beings. They just did what was almost natural, and they did react. And that simple little cherry-picked slice of that video has been used ever since as propaganda to hit the Khalistan movement. And again, it's being brought up here. It's used as so-called evidence. So this is why it's so important. Do not gift Hindutva these bits of evidence. Anyway, well done to these guys, because clearly it was peaceful. But anyway, so in this, again, this letter, they refer to it specifically by date. But you could argue, well, if that's all you've only got one instance of evidence, but it's still evidence. Anyway, as they say, temples are not political battlegrounds. They're places of worship where Canadian families come in peace and dignity. Again, they're trying to they paint this whole victimhood narrative again. And often I talk about this Hindutva method of victimhood. We are the victims, leaning heavily into this script of victimhood. They claim peaceful worshippers, specifically mentioning women and children, are under threat from Khalistani intimidation. It's a classic tactic of the Hindutva agenda, taking a political, democratic, peaceful protest against the Indian state, but reframing it as a targeted attack on a religious community and women and children. It's very deliberate, provocative, evocative, emotional language. We are victims, our women and children are victims of these violent extremists. That's the narrative that they're framing. And likewise, this lot, I've not come across this lot before, Canadian Hindu volunteers. The language on this one is even worse, and these guys really go to town. They really get on the same act. And again, I'll just take a selection of their language because it follows the script almost sort of perfectly. Note how it does follow basically the same sort of script, it's almost like a template. It's no accident. It's just basically what it does is it proves the campaign is orchestrated, it is coordinated by central Hindutva, presumably back in India. And the language they use in this one, it's too small unless you want to zoom in, but I'll just give you a few sort of samples. It says, on November the 3rd, 2024, at Hindu Sabha Temple in Brampton. Yes, here we go again. This is why I get irate and I talk to you guys. Please do not gift these people with propaganda. That one simple slip of discipline, here it is again in this one. They say, Khalistani extremists attacked women, children, elders and peaceful devotees in broad daylight simply for practicing their faith. That was not spontaneous, it was not isolated. So there again, you can see how they've just completely spun a complete lie about what actually happened on that one specific occasion. But here it is, and they use it over and over again. It was a gift to these people. It was a gift to their propagandists because they got the video of this and they said, "Oh, this is fantastic! Thanks, guys. We can really spin a whole yarn how they attacked. We were peacefully trying to pray. Our women and children were trying to pray, and look, they attacked us. They're this violent mob." So again, you can see why I get so passionate saying, please do not gift these people such an easy piece of propaganda. And they also say, CSIS has warned repeatedly that Canada-based Khalistani extremists, that's CBKE tag that they keep now trying to use across social media, these extremists represent a serious homegrown security threat. Well, remember last week how I took apart that narrative? No, they're not. They were mentioned in the CSIS report. But the bigger threat to Canada is actually these very people themselves, is Hindutva, as officially declared in this same report. But again, this is their propaganda. Sikhs for Justice claims to stand for justice, but what justice looks like to them is organising intimidation campaigns. Does that look like intimidation? Outside minority places of worship. Suddenly, minority, yes, Hindus, the poor minority, the victimhood narrative again. Calling Hindus disloyal to Canada and telling an entire community to leave the country. Well, actually, that is not what the Khalistan movement is saying at all. But again, it's a complete lie. That is not advocacy. That is Hindu-phobia, they say. That is Hindu-phobia. Here again, it's the same narrative. Victimhood, Hindu-phobia. This is one of their methods that they're using across the mainstream, saying it's Hindu-phobia. And as they continue, that is extremism with a megaphone and a social media account. Well, again, the hypocrisy there. The whole Hindutva methodology is online, social media with a megaphone, etc. And they say, this is about a fringe extremist network exploiting Canadian freedoms to threaten, intimidate and silence Canadians. Wow. I mean, again, you can just... right, first of all, they're claiming this is a fringe extremist network. Well, sorry, guys. Did you actually see the numbers that turned up to the referendum and the referenda across the world, etc.? But anyway, I don't need to convince you guys about the whole fringe movement argument. But what is interesting about that line is... it is this network exploiting Canadian freedoms to threaten, intimidate and silence Canadians. Well, actually, you could rewrite that and say Hindutva, these guys exploiting Canadian freedoms to threaten, intimidate and silence Canadians. Now, don't forget, if we look at the truth and the evidence, who actually is murdering Canadian citizens? Who actually is threatening, intimidating, harassing, threatening violence against Canadian citizens? It's not the Khalistanis. It's Hindutva. It's you guys. We've got evidence to prove it. Lawrence Bishnoi gang as a prime example. So anyway, as I say, we bring the truth, the fact, not this nonsense spread across social media, propaganda. Anyway, but why are they doing this? Well, because it works for their international PR. By painting Sikhs and Khalistanis as aggressors and themselves as victims, this whole victimhood narrative, they aim to pressure Canadian law enforcement into suppressing Sikh activism. Yeah, it's these Khalistani extremists, again, that's this spread across social media. And we've seen it before. They're constantly recirculating that wretched viral footage from 2 years ago. The one showing the reaction, the guys reacted with their flagpoles. But as we do highlight repeatedly, it was a masterpiece of selective editing. It conveniently removed what happened before there, the initial provocation by Hindutva agents provocateurs, who moved into Sikh space to incite a reaction. Today, they're using that same old ghost to haunt current peaceful demonstrations, like the one that happened, or the ones that happened yesterday. Just worth highlighting a few things that did actually happen yesterday as we talk about it. In the city of Brampton, did actually enact a bylaw establishing a 100-metre safety zone around temples, all the mandirs, during these protests. And that's why you see, of course, that barrier there. That was part of this bubble, as they call it, this safety zone that the police put there, just to obviously keep the two sides apart. Normal police methodology, I don't have a problem with that. It was presented as a safety measure, but Hindutva groups are already using that sort of image of those barriers as a win, claiming it proves the extremist nature of the Sikh community. Well, they don't, these guys don't look like extremists to me. They just look like peaceful demonstrators. There's not much sort of extremism going on here. I mean, with all due respect to them, there's a lot of sort of quite mature people there. They're not extremists. These are people who just passionately feel about a simple democratic mandate. They want their own homeland. Again, I don't see any extremism going on here. But anyway, but police pressure was obviously... well, it came originally. I mean, I talk about that list that was gifted to us by the Hindu organisations, but it was the coalition of Hindus of North America, Kona, and all these other guys. But they have openly stated that their confidence in Peel Regional Police, the local police force, is being tested. Basically, it's a direct political pressure on the police force intended to force them to take a hard line against Sikh protesters. So again, they know what they're doing, these Hindutva people. They know how to sort of use and manipulate the RCMP, local police, etc., and the Brampton police. And in Surrey, the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir has actually been rushing to obtain court orders for similar restrictions in their locality because they didn't actually have the bylaws in place there already. But anyway, I don't think they did at the time. But ultimately, the goal was very simple. It was to make the very act of protesting for Khalistan synonymous with terrorism and hate in the eyes of the Canadian public. So again, when the Hindus went rushing to the police saying, please protect us, they're trying to create this whole sort of image, this fake image that they're under attack, they are victims of these extremists, etc. Khalistan extremists. Stop attacks on Canadian Hindus. I mean, it's nonsense, but anyway. But of course, all the Indian state media was very, very predictable as they covered it. They're already framing the events yesterday as Hindu temples demand protection, not Sikhs protest Indian state interference, or why these guys are actually there protesting. But anyway, but again, we have to sort of really remind the world that the Sikh community's struggle and these whole protests is with the Indian state and its failing democracy. It is not with the Hindu faith. And when Hindutva groups weaponise their religious identity to shield the Indian government from criticism, they're the ones blurring the lines between religion and politics. And the reason why these guys are outside the mandirs is simply because we know these mandirs are centres of operation. Like the consulates, they are basically the centre of operations for Hindutva forces. This is where Hindutva plan and launch a lot of their operations from the mandirs themselves. So again, these protests are very deliberately targeted at the Mandirs because, again, it's not against the women and children and their freedom to practice their religion. It's against the Mandir and the Hindutva people within inside, saying it's you guys who are actually the guilty of all this. And it is vital to point out. I mean, the Peel Regional Police, the local police, actually did already support. They tweeted that they supported lawful and peaceful assembly. And they said in the same tweets, "We will not tolerate unlawful acts." Well, how many arrests happened over the weekend? I've not heard of one yet. Maybe time will tell if there were any. But it's very clear that from all the videos and right across social media, there's loads of videos uploaded over the last overnight that I've looked at, and I haven't seen any issue. In fact, actually, to be fair, I haven't even actually seen a policeman in any of the videos either. So that's how threatening these protests were. But anyway, and it is vital to point out the hypocrisy in the peaceful devotee narrative. These organisations, the Hindu Canadian Foundation and the other lot in that list, they claim to want peace, but the social media channels, their own social media channels, are often filled with extreme nationalism, anti-minority rhetoric, death threats. I mean, you guys have probably yourselves looked down the comments after the Hindu Canadian Foundation and all their posts, and it's filled with the most vile, hate-filled tweets from these Hindutva nationalists and Hindus who've just been completely indoctrinated by this propaganda. And it perfectly aligns with this RSS-driven Hindutva philosophy of let's attack the Khalistan movement, let's attack Sikhs. Sikhs, Khalistanis are evil extremists, etc. And even just the law enforcement framing this 100-metre exclusion zone as a necessity. They're successfully lobbying, essentially, for the ghettoisation of Sikh protest. If you can't be seen or heard by those that you're protesting against, has your right to free speech been effectively neutralised? And that's an interesting thought, because again, if you remove these protesters, as they've tried to do, away from the very people they're protesting about and against, actually you could argue their right to free speech has been removed, it's been neutralised, because again, what's the point of the protest if the people who are the protesting against actually can't even see or hear them? But actually, all I would say to that is it still does matter, guys, because these images are going around the world on social media and indeed mainstream media. The Khalistan flags, as I keep saying, all these protests are not in vain, because every time a Khalistan flag is seen on a photograph, on a video, it's being seen by people who ask questions. What is this Khalistan movement? What is it all about? And that whole story then unfolds. It's all about educating the world about the Khalistan movement, who we are, what we stand for, the fact it is a peaceful, democratic movement. And again, this is why Hindutva are paranoid now, because they're realising they're losing the battle. They are losing this whole information war, and they're seeing the momentum of the Khalistan movement building and building. And again, mainstream media, the state machinery are becoming increasingly aware of what it is and what it stands for, and seeing the fact that it is not a threat to Canadian peace or American peace or European peace or global peace. Quite the opposite. The whole Khalistan movement is a contributor and could be a vital piece in global peace, if you excuse the puns there. Anyway, now, I'm going to move on now. This is an interesting story. And I have to say, we talk about extremism, Khalistani extremism. We don't, they do, Hindutva do, on a regular basis. And we uncovered this story over the last few days of a grenade being thrown. And, and I have to say, to be balanced, and I do like to bring the truth and be balanced on this programme, clearly, there may be those out there, particularly in Khalistan itself, in the Punjab, who are moved to taking direct action. Now, let me preface everything that I'm about to say with the simple, provable fact that the Khalistan movement as a movement is a peaceful, democratic movement that has no interest in violence of any form, and quite the opposite. It absolutely rejects any form of violence. The mainstream Khalistan movement does not want to be associated with, in any way, shape or form, any violent act or any illegal act. It is winning the battle through peaceful, lawful, democratic means. However, it is possible that there are a few guys out there who are so moved by anger and passion that they do take direct action. I can't deny that if it does exist. But what I would say, and this is ironic, is that if those guys are out there doing these acts, they literally are the fringe extreme end of the whole movement. Every political cause, even here in the UK, for example, the left wing, the right wing, Conservative, Labour, our two mainstream parties, have extremists at their absolute extreme ends, the right and left, have their extremists who actually do go about violent acts. So every political movement has its extreme end that is unavoidable. When you're dealing with human beings, there are always those who will fall out, who will be the outliers in the main. And it does seem, maybe, arguably, there are a few guys out there who are taking direct action through just anger, frustration, victimhood. Let's use that word. Anyway, as I said, the story, it does seem that on Wednesday last week, April the 1st, a grenade was hurled at the BJP's state headquarters in Chandigarh, in Sector 37 in Chandigarh. Now, it seemed on the surface, and it was covered obviously by Indian mainstream media, surprise, surprise. It was, again, an easy propaganda coup to hit the Khalistan movement in the Sikh community. It does look like a straightforward security incident, but actually, if you look at how this story has developed over the last few days, or certainly a couple of days, it becomes clear it is actually becoming a textbook example of how the Indian state manufactures terror headlines to justify everything it's doing, its crackdown on the diaspora, to justify its mass propaganda, anti-Khalistan propaganda. Now, hours after the blast, a guy called Sukhjinder Singh Baba, who is this alleged claimed Khalistani terrorist, he claimed responsibility for the attack. Now, I can't read this. I guess I'm hoping you guys can read this. Maybe somebody can let me know basically what it says, because I can't get a translation of it. But according to India Today, and of course I can't rely on this because this is the Godi media who said this, but they claim it says, in a statement posted online, Sukhjinder Singh Baba claims responsibility for the grenade attack that took place in Sector 37, Chandigarh, April the 1st. We wish to convey to the Indian establishment that they may employ whatever tactics they desire to eliminate the Sikh youth of Punjab. The Khalsa Panther, the Dasmesh Pitta, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, will deliver a fitting retaliation. And he vowed to avenge the death of Ranjit Singh, a suspect in the February this year killing of two policemen in Gurdaspur, and was shot dead in an alleged police encounter, a fake encounter, in February the 25th. The killers of Ranjit Singh in Gurdaspur too shall not be spared, apparently it says. The protective hand of the Dasmesh Pitta rests upon our heads. The land of Punjab is the land of the Khalsa. Khalistan shall be established in Punjab. Well, I can't disagree with that, so it will be. But anyway, but on Saturday, the Punjab Director General of Police, a guy called Gaurav Yadav, he held a high-profile press conference to announce that the case has been solved, apparently, with the arrest of 7 individuals. But we have to pay attention to a lot of the details that are now being fed to the media. And again, it's very hard to get to the truth of these matters, as always. The police claim, here we go again, that this was an ISI-backed terror module. Now, they're not just blaming local youth. They're explicitly pointing the finger at handlers located apparently in Portugal and Germany. And according to the official statement, individuals named Baljot Singh in Portugal and Harjit Singh Ladi in Germany were directing the entire operation via social media. Okay, right. So why is this so significant? Basically, what the police narrative that's coming out, it's creating a transnational movement. They're globalising this. They're saying it's some huge network of terrorists. Now, what actually happened was apparently, and there's a viral video, well, I don't know if it's viral, but there was a video doing the rounds, and it's being shown by mainstream media. And I've seen it, and it is basically it's 2 guys on a motorbike. One guy's got a grenade, pulls the pin, lobs it. That's it. Off it goes. It was a 10-second video of the incident. It shows a man pulling a pin of a blue grenade and throwing it, and his accomplice records the act. Now, first of all, if you're carrying out a genuine covert operation, why would you record yourself and then hand the Indian media the perfect 10-second soundbite? Well, it's a media asset. It's designed to go viral, to be played on a loop on Republic TV, India Today, the Gaudiya media, to be shared in WhatsApp group across Canada, to prove that the Sikhs protesting are part of a violent global network. So again, got two guys on a motorbike, one throwing a grenade. So first of all, the question has to be asked, was it really a genuine Khalistan attack? Nobody was hurt. There's a bit of property damage. But it's two guys on a motorbike. Firstly, why would they do that? Well, okay, arguably if it was them, it was the most minor of attacks. So you can't then argue it was some part of a great terror network with people in Portugal and Germany coordinating this mass attack. Two guys on a motorbike and a grenade. It's the sort of thing that a bunch of teenagers would suddenly come up with an idea when they're a bit drunk or whatever. Here in the UK, let's do something really stupid. Let's go throw. Well, we wouldn't do it here in the UK, but you get what I'm saying. This is not part of a mass, an international terror network. These are two guys, if they genuinely are Khalistanis, these are two guys who think, let's go lob a grenade. Awful, terrible. I agree. It's an illegal act and stupid, but it's not an international terror network operation. It's not a covert operation. Certainly, again, one of them videoed it to spread spread it virally. Again, you have to say, is it false flag? I don't know. Again, we've got no corroborating evidence. We don't know for a fact, but it was all very convenient. And you also have to say the timing is very convenient because, of course, you've got over in Canada, you've got the whole Khalistan movement winning the narrative, and they're saying suddenly, look, we need some evidence that these guys are extremists. Again, it does raise questions. What is it all about? Was there a little bit more to the story? So again, it goes on. If we look at some of the facts of this breakthrough that the police claimed, they claimed that they recovered a Chinese-made P86 grenade and a Zagana pistol, allegedly smuggled in via drone from Pakistan. That's the official story from the police, and it's all reported in the Gaudiya media. But it is this report. It follows a standard template: Pakistan, drones, foreign handlers. Those ingredients always make up their stories to create terrorists. It's an immediate terrorist label. It ticks every box. It's got Pakistan, ISI. It's got drones droned in, this ammunition and stuff. Foreign handlers. It's part of the global terrorist network. It's nonsense. But by labelling it this way, they've gone past any political discussion about, well, firstly, why is there any unrest in Punjab in the first place? Why the BJP is being a target? It ignores actually the actual story itself. Why did this terrorist attack take place? But instead, the whole thing, it's all about national security. And it then helps them to ignore human rights. It helps them to ignore due process, due journalistic process, but certainly due legal process. And it goes back to what we've been talking about earlier. The narrative that they're creating just from a simple act in Chandigarh is, again, this ammunition that the Hindutva PR machine in the West can then use. Say, look, they're lobbing grenades at us, they're terrorists. Canadian Hindu Foundation, Kona, all these organisations, they can issue statements that talk about Khalistani intimidation, Khalistani terrorists. And they're pointing to these headlines in India, saying to the Canadian public, look, these are the same people who throw grenades at our offices in India. They're a threat to your safety in Canada. It's a deliberate blurring of the lines between legitimate political protest and criminal acts, if indeed it was, whatever it was in Chandigarh. Again, it's very, very dodgy, very, very suspect what happened. And we've got to see the pattern that's developing here. In the Punjab, arrests are made within 72 hours of these guys, blaming the diaspora to justify state repression. And likewise in Canada, old videos, that attack, that silly loss of discipline, recirculated. Look, they're terrorists, they're extremists. exclusion zones to keep them away from the Mandirs because they are the terrorists, etc. It's all part of basically a single coordinated strategy to delegitimise the Sikh struggle for Khalistan. The Indian state knows it's losing this battle, particularly in the diaspora, so it's doubling down on the battle of fear. So, as I say, we'll keep an eye on all these stories, but ultimately, when you're going out, just a reminder, when you do go out to these rallies, remember the eyes of the world are on you. The cameras, the Hindutva cameras are on you all the time. They're waiting for reactions. They're waiting for that next 10-second video that they can circulate as propaganda. So don't gift them propaganda. Just let the facts, let truth, and let your peaceful presence at these things be the answer to their manufactured terror, because that's why we're winning. So talking about winning the information war, RCMP, Mike Doohan. The RCMP, it turns out, Global News reported this a few days ago. Gosh, this is the U-turns making us all dizzy from the RCMP. Mike Doohan, remember that video I showed, was it about 10 days ago? Where he said, we can't join the dots. Clearly under pressure from Mark Carney's government to label India as behind transnational repression in Canada. Well, it turns out the RCMP was forced into a humiliating and yet another U-turn over the last few days. And this story just once again reveals this massive disconnect between Canada's top police official, Mike Doohan, and the reality of what's actually happening on the ground, as indeed MPs, even in Carney's own party, have pointed out, a gap that many in the community believe is being deliberately created to facilitate this thaw in diplomatic relations with the Modi government. It really is. It's a staggering case of political gymnastics and gaslighting. This word gaslighting, it comes up again. Basically, the Sikh community and indeed the Canadian citizens are just basically being gaslit in this whole story. And it does, of course, involve Mike Doohan. And a U-turn so sharp over the last few days, it's left everybody saying, look, just what actually is going on? Is transnational repression real or not in your eyes, in the RCMP's eyes? And I have to say, I feel a bit sorry for Mike Doohan because he's just caught in this whirlpool between the truth and the Mark Carney government. The truth is spinning in one way, the Carney's government is spinning the other. And poor Mike Doohan in the middle is just saying, look, I just want to do my job. I just want to protect the Canadian people. And unfortunately, he's starting to look a bit of a fool. And again, I don't blame poor Mike, because I totally get he's caught between politics and the truth. And it does appear, not that long ago, he gave an interview to CTV News, if you remember. We are not seeing any connection right now between transnational repression and any foreign entity. We can't join the dots, if you remember. He wouldn't join the dots that it's India behind it, which flew in the face of what he'd said before and obviously the evidence on the ground. It was breathtaking because, of course, we've got Hardeep Singh Najjar, we've got the expulsion of Indian diplomats for orchestrating violence. We have CSIS labelling India as a main perpetrator of foreign interference. So we all know the truth, but the timing of his statement was no accident. It obviously happened in the context of Carney's visit to Delhi. But the backlash, as we said, was so fierce. World Sikh Organisation were on it straight away. They said, look, this is absolutely outrageous. You can't lie like this, etc. And so Wednesday last week, the RCMP was forced into a clarification. So in a new statement, the RCMP admitted that foreign states continue to harass and intimidate Canadians. They backtracked. They had no choice, saying that while they are aware of complaints of intimidation, the difficulty lies in connecting the dots in a way that can be disclosed in a criminal court. So there's a bit of a wordplay going on here. They aren't saying the interference has stopped. They're just saying it's difficult to prove it to a criminal standard. It really is basically, it's gaslighting. It's admitting that there is a threat, but at the same time claiming they can't officially see it. The World Sikh Organisation didn't hold back. They accused the RCMP of playing word games to shield the government of India, is one thing that they said. And again, as I said in the opening part, I feel a bit sorry for Mike Duhem because he is treading this very fine diplomatic line. He's caught between the politics of Carney, demanding, obviously, that we can't label India as a threat because it'll destroy our trade deal. But on the other side, he's got the truth. And he knows the truth. Poor Mike Duhem knows the truth. He's a policeman. He's got in his veins the law, the truth. He stands up for the truth, for legality, to protect Canadian citizens. So he knows that his citizens are under direct threat from Canada. But he's got the politicians breathing down his neck, probably saying, look, if you don't align with us, we'll sack you. So, from his own perspective, he's thinking, my career's on the line if I don't align with Mark Carney. And this, I'm going to use a rude word, this bullshit that he's trying to spread. So, again, it's pretty shocking what's going on. And I'd say I can't really blame Mike Duhem. But ultimately, the victim here is not so much Mike Duhem, it's the truth, as always. And but I'm glad to see that he's been forced into somewhat of a U-turn, even to his own embarrassment. But please, Mr. Duhem, not that you'll be watching this, but I appeal to Duhem and his cohorts in the RCMP. Look, you know the truth always wins in the end. I know you've got to tread a political line, but for heaven's sake, these are your own citizens under attack, genuinely under attack, as you know, from a foreign power. Whose side are you actually on? And I know the politicians are threatening to sack you, but ultimately, the winners, the politicians will be gone in the next election, but you theoretically will still be there. So it's you are the consistent force in this, and you've got to represent the truth, and you've got to protect the Sikh community and get the truth out there. Anyway, so there you go. Right, I'm running out of time actually, so I'm having to rush a little bit, but I certainly wanted to cover this, and this was overnight again. News not leaked out, but news spread across social media. The Sikh Freedom March out on Saturday, where the streets of Washington, D.C. were filled with the orange and blue of the panther for the Sikh Freedom March. It started at the historic grounds of Capitol Hill. And thousands of Sikhs from right across the US and Canada gathered to deliver a clear message to the heart of American democracy. It wasn't just a parade, it was, of course, as always, it was a demonstration of political will, of passion, of the Khalistan movement. Now, the purpose officially of the march was twofold. Firstly, it served as a public declaration of the Sikh right to self-determination and the establishment of Khalistan, obviously. But secondly, and perhaps maybe more urgently, given certainly what we've been talking about earlier, it was a protest against Indian transnational repression on US soil. I do have a little bit of coverage, just as we speak, almost as we speak, coverage is being uploaded across social media. And again, I just want to sort of just show a little bit. Let me show you a little bit. I'll keep that playing in the background. It was a good day, clearly. A good turnout as well. And as I say, the purpose obviously was to highlight, firstly, transnational repression, and of course, secondly, the Khalistan movement. But the guys who were there highlighted, obviously, there's a lot of speeches. That's Swaranjit Singh Khalsa speaking there. He's actually been a guest of mine a couple of years ago, interviewed him. Really nice guy, actually, in Connecticut. He, ironically, and we're talking about this so-called terrorist extremist movement of Khalistan. This is the mayor, the Sikh mayor of Norwich, Connecticut, Swaranjit Singh Khalsa. So apparently he's a terrorist. A mayor, a US mayor, apparently, according to India and Hindutva, is a terrorist. He represents a terrorist organisation. Really? So again, we talk about the truth. If you really think, if anybody genuinely thinks the Khalistan movement is a terrorist, extremist, fringe movement, why is an American mayor standing up there talking about it, pushing for it? It's again, I don't need to preach to you guys. You know the truth. Anyway, but the speakers, there's a lot of speakers, and thank you to TV84 for these pictures. Actually, they covered the event live. They streamed it live. So I've sort of borrowed a few of their pictures. I hope they don't mind. Participants apparently they talked about the recent assassination plots. Obviously, Hardeep Singh Najjar, Gurpreet Singh Panuna, etc. They talked about the surveillance targeting the Sikh activists in the West. They called on the US government to take a firmer stand against foreign interference, etc. But it was again a great day out. Bole Sonehal chanted Khalistan Zindabad, recounted on a regular basis. But basically, the whole thing, it was a very visible reminder that the Sikh struggle for sovereignty is being globalised. Here they are on Capitol Hill. You don't get more public than that. As I say, the speakers at the event had a whole list of speakers, the representatives from all sorts of pantheistic organisations, all emphasising that as the 2026 Khalistan referendum continues, obviously Seattle only a couple of weeks ago, the momentum is only growing. So again, this is all part of this growing momentum, this growing visibility of the movement. And the Indian media, obviously, trying to paint this whole organisation, this whole movement as fringe, failing, extremist, terrorist. Now, the scale of yesterday's march in Washington, D.C. tells a very different story. This community is organised, it is articulate, it is refusing to be intimidated into silence. It is peaceful. It is democratic. And most of all, it's winning. There you go. So well done, everybody. Turned up at Capitol Hill in Washington. It was, by all accounts, a very successful day out. Well done. And again, lovely to see the Khalistan flag flying so visibly. That's why so important to get the flag out there. So let's move on to the comment section. The clock's counting down. So again, a huge thank you to all of you who've contributed loads of wonderful comments from some of our regulars, many of our regulars who are always there. Thanks, guys, and many new faces have appeared. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, if you're a lurker, if you're watching but haven't commented, drop in, just say hello. Many of you do. Just pop in and say good morning, hi, thanks for watching, or whatever. Anyway, Satbachan Singh, one of our regulars. I'm a truth teller. Thank you. Yeah, the British government is working under duress from pressure from the RSS, Hindutva, etc. Yeah, don't we know it? Interesting, yeah, you do remind us. The Hindustani government is not much different from Taliban, who obviously, the Taliban, guilty of the most egregious, outrageous assault on global heritage. Those carvings, was the Buddhist statues in Afghanistan and Iraq that they destroyed. Those pictures of the Taliban destroying those historic, literally they are millennia old statues. They don't just belong to the Buddhist faith, they belong to humanity, and they destroy them. It was an unforgivable act of vandalism, of cultural vandalism, for which all of us united cannot forgive the Taliban for doing that. It was such a mistake to do that. It was so not just disrespectful, but the history that was lost in that. It's anyway. I digress. But ultimately, yes. But also, don't forget, as you've alluded to here, is that Hindustan government, RSS, are aligned with the Taliban. Watch my podcasts I've done in the past, particularly with Bhajan Singh Binder, where we talked about this link between Afghanistan, the extremists, the Muslim Islamic extremists in Afghanistan, now that is the Taliban, but in the earlier days were different sort of organisations, but essentially the same type of people. They are, and always have been, aligned with the Indian administration since 1947. They've colluded again, particularly in the 1970s against Pakistan, when they were organising assassination plots, and the KGB was planning with Afghanistan and with the Gandhi dynasty to essentially to invade Pakistan, assassinate the Pakistani president, and essentially take control of Pakistan. So the Soviet Union, as it was then, would then stretch from Moscow all the way down to Delhi, including Afghanistan and Pakistan. That was the grand plan that was thwarted by the Sikh people. One of the reasons why Operation Blue Star happened. Anyway, fascinating history. But thank you, Satbachan Singh, for your contribution. Bali Sohar. Yeah, this is an interesting comment. I have to say, I wholeheartedly agree with it. No Sikh here in the UK should ever vote Labour or Conservative again. I mean, it's not up to me to tell you what to vote, but unfortunately, I can't resist. No, Einstein's definition of insanity, as is often recounted, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you keep voting Labour or Conservative, nothing's going to ever change. These two parties that always say, oh, we'll protect you, we'll look after you, our Sikh community, particularly the Labour Party, will take care of you. And they don't. They never have done. They keep betraying you. So don't keep voting for the same old parties. Vote for anybody else. I don't care who. But just don't vote for these two parties. I've often talked about the Reform Party. Again, I'm not telling you to vote Reform, but I would say they do seem one of the reason why Conservative and Labour are so anti-reform is because they realise that Reform actually are a direct threat to their existence, because they actually now do seem to represent the normal, ordinary, working class people of this country. But anyway, there are other alternatives to vote for. But anyway, it's up to you guys who you vote for. But I agree with Bali Sohel. Do not vote Labour Conservative. Don't vote in Muslim MPs either. They won't do anything for our people. I have to say again, I agree with you. I'll talk about that in a moment, actually. And raising something in Parliament does nothing for us. Yes, exactly. Particularly under the Starmer government. It doesn't matter. Even some of his own MPs. There's one recently, an MP, about our jury trials. One of his own MPs said, you can't do this, to remove the right for trial by jury here in the UK. Starmer is trying to remove that for many cases. And one of his own MPs said, you can't do this. This is the foundation of our democracy, of our rule of law. And what do? They sacked him, effectively. Remove the whip, as it's called. Anyway, that's the authoritarian government we seem to be having. But anyway, I digress. But you continue. As long as we don't fall in the hands of the Islamists, I'm okay with Khalistan. My vision of Khalistan is for it to be Islam-free. I welcome everyone but Muslims to my Desh Punjab. This is an interesting story, actually. I think this week I'll try and do a story about the whole Islam-Sikh relationship, because it's a bit of a dichotomy. There's a word. We have this interesting relationship with the Islamic community. There's so many decent Muslims. I've had Muslim friends in the past. But there is an extremist element, and there is a clear agenda from the Islamic people that seems to have captured the British government. The British government seems to be favouring the Muslim population, the Muslim minority here in the UK, over not just the Sikh community, but the Christian community as well. And I might do a story about all this. And I'm sensing across Sikh social media and the WhatsApp groups that I'm a member of, there is quite a strong growing anti-Islam sentiment. Obviously, a lot of it based around the grooming gangs, but there are other areas as well. This preferential treatment that Muslims are getting here in the UK, etc. It's creating a bit of division. So I want to investigate that. Maybe we'll talk about that later in a later show. But thank you for highlighting Balisahal. I totally understand where you're coming from, because again, there is quite a strong anti-Islam feeling growing, certainly in Europe. And I wonder if it's the same in the US. Let me know if you guys in North America, Canada, US, are you feeling it? Are you seeing it? Again, it's a bit of a backlash, obviously, against extremism and violence and terrorism, etc. But it's becoming a bit more than that. It's a little bit more mainstream. Anyway, so that's a whole huge subject that I'll try and cover maybe in a show this week. We'll analyse just what's going on there. Awesome, Stevie. Yes, this was after 1984. The library, the official, the Sikh library that was apparently ransacked by the Indian state, and all those incredibly priceless artifacts stolen by the Indian state from the Sikh people, which included lots of hukamnamas, commandments written by the gurus themselves, and including, as you say, there were hukams of Guru Har Krishan Sahib Ji, the 8th Guru. And you're very curious about that specifically, because there's not much known as the 8th Guru. He was a young boy. He left, as you say, left his body before their 8th birthday. Well, I had to look up a little bit about this. I'm sure most of you guys know this. But this is for those who might not know. Guru Har Krishan, this young 8th Guru, born 1656, died 8 years later. He's also known as Bal Guru, or the Child Guru. Hari Krishan Sahib was his official name. He was the 8th Guru, 8th of 10 Gurus. When he was 5, he succeeded. He became the 8th Guru at the age of 5, succeeding his father, Guru Har Rai. He became the youngest Guru in Sikhism. Sadly, the poor young lad, he contracted smallpox and died just before reaching his 8th birthday. It's obviously the shortest reign as a Guru. It was only 2 years as a Guru. 2 years, 5 months and 24 days. And he is remembered in the Sikh tradition for saying Baba Bakale before he died, which Sikhs interpreted to identify his granduncle, Guru Tegh Bahadur, as his successor. So the 9th Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, then obviously succeeded him. So, yeah, but ultimately, as you say, there are allegedly hukamnamas from this young boy, the 8th Guru, the child Guru. So again, I talk about how priceless they are, absolutely. JJ, once the Great British Empire is now on its knees, brought by their own politicians, it's a sad reality. But it does give hope that the Indian Empire will also collapse. Yeah, this is such a true point. The British Empire, the British Empire itself wasn't brought down by its own politicians. It was actually brought down by global events. The First World War, essentially, was what really brought the British Empire to an end, because the British Empire was just sacrificed the millions of lives of the Commonwealth countries, Sikhs included, just in the carnage of the First World War. It cost so much, both financially, but of course in humanity. That's really what brought the British Empire down. But your point, I think, is very valid in the modern day British Empire, if you can even call it that. I wouldn't even call it an empire. But the power of Great Britain has basically been destroyed by this current crop and recent crop of British MPs, British politicians. Tony Blair started the real rot. And ever since Tony Blair, this country has just become, and particularly now under Starmer, we're a laughing stock. I mean, you only need to see what's happening in the Iran war. The British, Great Britain, well, I won't even call it Great Britain anymore. It's become a laughing stock. The United Kingdom has become a laughing stock on the global stage. We can't even defend our own shores, never mind go defend our foreign assets. It is a sad reality. But anyway, your key point is, if the British Empire can fall, if the Soviet Union can fall, India can certainly fall, and it will do. It is happening. Even those not aligned with us, as I said in the past, even they are predicting India is going to break apart. It is inevitable. There we go. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. S. Singh. 99% of Sikhs and Hindus have no problem. They know they're one family. This is a point that I try and get across regularly. We're not anti-Hindu. We're not even anti-India on this channel. And I wish Hindutva or the censors would wake up. We love India on this channel. No problem with India. We've no problem with Hindus. What we don't like is Hindutva and the RSS, these extremists, these extreme elements. They are the genuine extremists, the terrorists. That's who we've got a problem with. And as correspondents regularly remind us, Sikhs and Hindus live side by side very happily and have done for decades, centuries even. The only division is coming from one part, and that's from the RSS. They are the ones dividing us. And this is why Khalistan is so, so necessary. And of course, Hindus will be welcoming Khalistan. It is likely that Khalistan could well be majority Hindu. Sikh Empire, don't forget, was a minority Sikh empire. So it doesn't have to be a majority population to be an empire. It was just run under Sikh principles, as Khalistan will be. S. Simba, thank you for your comment, S. Simba. You've asked this several times, and I did actually reply to you to this comment. I'm just curious if any Khalistani can tell me what countries would border Khalistan. Or are we creating Khalistan in Canada? Well, quick answer, no, we're not talking about establishing Khalistan in Canada. What would be the point of that? No, Khalistan will be established where its roots lie, which of course is in present-day India and part of present-day Pakistan. In an ideal world, Khalistan would, of course, be the original Sikh Empire, which stretches all the way into Delhi and beyond in India, all the way up past Afghanistan, Kabul and places like that. That obviously is unrealistic. So ultimately, there are different versions, variations. Khalistan will not be Punjab as it is today. Punjab today is an artificial construct by India, deliberately reduced into this tiny geographical area of present-day Punjab that doesn't even include Chandigarh. Its historic capital. So Khalistan will be, it is hoped, what is being touted as Khalistan, it will be this that you can see on screen here, and it will border. So if you're asking the question, what countries will border Khalistan? It will be obviously India. It will obviously be Pakistan, which is why it's so important, because it keeps these two warring nations apart. It becomes that peaceful buffer zone. It will hopefully stretch down to the Arabian Sea. So it will include Gujarat down here. Obviously Maharashtra, Rajasthan, etc. Present-day Punjab, Haryana, but also stretch up to include parts of Kashmir. Now, this red dashed area, this is what they describe as the disputed area. This is obviously subject to negotiation because, of course, Pakistan will resist a lot of this, obviously. And I regularly see the arguments on social media. Why don't you argue with Pakistan about Khalistan? Well, we are. The whole point is it's not just India that we're asking for Khalistan and the Sikh Empire back. It's also it is also part of Pakistan, which should, by rights, belong to Khalistan. So, there's no hypocrisy here. The argument is we will negotiate with Pakistan, our friends in Pakistan, to say, look, guys, democratically, we do want parts of Pakistan. Now, Lahore here, I'm running out of time, so I can't spend too long on this, but Lahore here, many argue Lahore should be the capital of Khalistan. Now, that obviously currently lies in present-day Pakistan. Beautiful city, I've been there myself. But will that be part of Khalistan? To be debated. Ultimately, we don't know for sure. It's all subject to negotiation, subject to international treaties, etc. But this is the aspiration for Khalistan. So to answer your question, S. Simba, yes, we hope that its border countries will be India, Pakistan, and hopefully China to the north as well. And I hope that comprehensively answers your question, so you didn't need to ask it again. Parmjit Kaur. Yes, this is our regular. For those who are not regular viewers, as clearly you're not, please correct the spelling. Sikhs, not sick. Thanks. Sikhs, not sick. Yeah, we don't control the subtitles. It's just our regular reminders. We obviously have to regularly remind our new guests to the channel. Welcome to the channel. We don't control the subtitles. The US, North Americans pronounce Sikhs as Sikhs. Here in the UK, we call them Sikhs. The Sikh people, the Sikh people. But of course, AI-generated subtitles spells it as Sikh. It cannot differentiate between Sikh and Sikh. So it's not up to us, but I'm sure you guys have got the intelligence to work out. When I say Sikh, I'm referring to Sikhs, obviously. Unless, of course, somebody's being Sikh. That's a completely different context. But I think you can work it out. Anyway, but thank you, Parmjit, for raising that. We do know, and we regularly have to remind people, particularly new viewers, that, yes, we don't control the subtitles. Avatar Dylan, hello Avatar. Nice one, Angus. Thanks for your brilliant journalism from the Sikh community. Truth is above anything else. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your compliment. But as I say, it's not brilliant journalism. It's just the truth. The truth is the truth. As you say, the truth is above anything else. There's nothing brilliant about what I do. I'm just here as the messenger, the conduit, just to bring you the truth. And I can't do it without you guys. So do keep your comments, do keep your messages coming in. Thank you for many of you who have let me know interesting links and stories. Much appreciated. Gurjit Gill, lots of information. That's what I try. I try and cram in as much as I can into an hour. But gosh, we're already 4 minutes over time. I can't get more in. I'm trying to get more in. And the final words of the show, as I say, I must rush to the end because we're well over time again. Narinder Sidhu, hello Narinder. And Gurmeet Singh, hello Gurmeet. Khalistan Zindabad, absolutely. That is what it's all about. Thank you to all of you who've contributed. Thanks so much for watching. Do keep your interesting emails coming in. Do keep your comments coming in. Let me know your thoughts, your perspectives. Do send me links to stories, as many of you have been doing. Thank you so much for those things that you think I need to know about. Because, yes, there's only me. And I rely on you guys to feed me a lot of this information. Even if it's just a rumour, just a link somewhere, as many of you have been doing, thank you. It helps build the stories, build the truth, etc., etc. Anyway, that's it for another day. Do keep contributing. Thank you for watching. Do spread the good word. Subscribe, all that sort of stuff. You know the routine. But as I say, do spread the word. Thanks so much for watching. You have, of course, been watching Perspectives. God willing, I will see you tomorrow.